Hello, welcome back to GCP Security Best Practices Q&A. We completed part 1 and 2. Hopefully this will add more in-depth details and it is a part 3. Let's be jumping into part 3 so we can share some information. Okay, so question, how should customer reliably deliver stack derived logs from GCP to on-premise SIM tool? I mean, you can see here the we have already, tick the tick box for you, you know. So by setting up org log sync to export the logs through a cloud pub subtopic, which will be sent to SIM via a data flow. Other options send they can send it via syslogs or configure project export or build connector only for SIM. It could be, but there's something out of the box which we can use pub and sub. That will help us, yeah. Okay. Next is you are part of security team that wants to ensure that the cloud storage bucket in project A can only be read by project B. You want to ensure data in cloud storage bucket cannot be accessed from or copied from another network, even if the user using the right credentials. What shall we do? Enable VPC service control, create parameter with project A and B and include cloud storage service or enable domain restriction sharing policy or enable private access in project A and B network with firewall restricting communication or enable VPC peering between the project A and B. The answer is B because we're talking about domain restriction even if your account is correct. Hence, I need to make sure I will apply a block. So the answer is B as per Google Cloud restriction policies, and the link is available under it. You can read about it. That will prevent, even if you have the right credentials. Next, a company is backing up application logs to cloud storage bucket shared with both analytics team and the admin for the purpose of analysis. The analyst should only have access to the logs and do not contain any PPI information, personal identifiable information. Log files should contain PII, and if it has PII, it should be stored in a bucket that's only accessible by the admin. So anything to do with the PII, only admin can see it. Other logs for the analyst, they should not see any PII. What shall we do in this scenario? Use cloud, pub sub, and cloud function to trigger data loss prevention DLP at any time, or upload the logs to both shared bucket and bucket only accessible by admin, and create a cron job for DLP, or use on the bucket shared with both analyst and admin, configure object life cycle management, which will delete objects that contain PII. This sounds a bit acceptable because it's not complicated. Or on the bucket with both analyst and admin, configure cloud storage trigger that only trigger when PII data is uploaded. Use cloud function to capture the trigger and delete such file. This one sounds correct as well. However, the one previously, it has out of the box, like lifecycle management rather than me creating functions which require some dev activity. It is correct, but the other one it has less, I will say, complication. Let's have a look. The answer is C. On the bucket shared with both analyst and the admin, configure object life cycle management to delete the object that contain PII information. A customer implemented a cloud-aware proxy for their ERP system, for finance on a compute engine. Their security team wants to add security layer so that the ERP system only accepts traffic from the API. What should we do here? Make sure the ERP system can validate GWT or JWT in the HTTP request. Make sure ERP system can validate identity header. Okay. Make sure it can validate the X forwarded for the header, or it will validate unique identity header. The answer is, because we are speaking about traffic, GWT will be the right because you can use bearer token. So the answer is A. Make sure that the ERP system can validate GWT, and that will be like, the typical, auth method we use, or modern authentication. And it will basically, we can use bearer token or any other method. A large financial institution is moving, or they are planning to move their big data analytics to Google Cloud. They want to have maximum control on encryption for data stored in BigQuery. How we can achieve that? Can we use cloud storage as a federated data source, or using HSM, or we use customer managed key or customer supplied key? Now, what technique we should use? Because they want to have maximum control. When we speak about maximum control, here on these options, C and B are getting flagged. But I will lean toward customer managed key because B doesn't talk about customer managed key, it just says cloud HSM. Yeah, so GCP HSM, or if that was on premise, then I will go down that route. So the answer is C. Full control with our key, and we can host it in GCP. A patch of vulnerability has been released, and our DevOps team need to update their running container in GCP, and especially for GKE, Kubernetes. How we can do this one? Use Puppet or Shift to push the patch running container. Okay. Verify the auto upgrade is enabled. So, okay. And you update the application code. Okay. And configure container automatically upgrade, this is unacceptable. D. So, typically the auto upgrade, because it is, when you do an update to containers, best practice is to verify via auto upgrade when it's enabled. That will take care of the, vulnerable, because we talk about security and vulnerability. So it's better if we have the auto upgrade enabled. That will be, I think, what Google recommend for upgrading the node for JKE. And I think the same thing with other public vendor provider, like AWS and Microsoft Azure as well. So the answer is B. Verify the auto update or upgrade is enabled. That should take care of the updates. Next, if a customer wants to move their sensitive workload to Cloud Engine based cluster using manage instance group, the jobs are bursty and must be completed quickly. They have requirement to be able to manage and rotate the encryption key. Which boot disk encryption should you use to achieve or address the requirements? We're talking about big data, too much. Require some burst, boot up. We need CPU and RAM plus encryption to be in place. Shall we use customer supplied key or customer managed key using cloud services, or encrypt by default or pre-encryption? So here we're talking about security. So we go on for full control. We will do customer managed key using cloud, management key services like Vault or equivalent. So the answer is B. Customer managed encryption key using cloud managed service. Next is our dev team are prototyping a few applications on GCP and starting to store sensitive information. As you know, dev team use personal consumer information to spend these resources. As a security engineer, you need to identify the risk here and what you're supposed to do in order to, you know, control the access of the data. You need to set up security key to use TSV methods or set up cloud identity and require the developer to use this account and require developer to log store their Gmail password and acceptable. Enable login to GCP project to track all developer activity. This does not achieve central management. We need to have central management, so we will lean toward answer B. You set up the Google Cloud Identity and you require your dev team to use it. Simple as that. Yep. Set up Cloud Identity and require the dev team to use the account when they log in. Next is your team need to make sure a compute engine instance does not have access to the internet or to any Google API service. Which two settings you will be selecting to prevent it from doing this one? A public IP address, IP forwarding, private Google access, static root, or IAM. So we can go for private Google access and static root. Okay, private Google access and static root. Okay, next, a company is running a workload in a dedicated server room. They must only be accessed from a private network. You need to connect to this workload from a compute engine within Google Cloud Platform. What are the two correct answers you can select to achieve that? A. Configure project with a cloud VPN, or configure with shared VPC, or configure the project with interconnect, and configure the project with VPC peering, and configure all the compute engine instance with the private access. So the answer is D and E. We need to have peering between the workloads, and we need to configure compute engine with the privileged access. So, and private access to prevent external access. Okay. Next is you are the security engineer or admin, and you have 3,000 objects in your cloud storage bucket. You do not want to manage access to each project individually, because that one's time consuming. You also want to uploader and you have full control over the project. However, you want to use cloud audit log to track what's happening to your bucket. What shall we do here? Shall we set up ACL with owner permission to scope for all the users? Or same with reader? Or set up default bucket manage access? Or set up uniform bucket access? The answer is A. Set up an ACL with owner permission because you don't want to, you want to be able to capture the logs and changes happening to each bucket. Okay. And the last question. As an adaptation of cloud DLP API growth with the company, we need to minimize or optimize usage of the resources cost. DLP target data sensitive in stored in BigQuery. The location and region are identified as suffix in the resource. Which cost reduction option should be utilized? Basically, you can set a appreciate low row limit value on BigQuery, and then this apply for bytes limit per file, or set appropriate row limit value, same like A outside the US, and minimize that transformation. Or we're not talking about, we talk about the whole entire deployment. So A and B doesn't sound right. Use row limit and byte limit per file to sample data and use cloud regex. That sounds right. And use finding limit and time span. So that's the C. Using row limit and byte limit, that will help you around, cloud sort of like, saving as well as, forcing the DLP, and you get the regex policies and you apply the policies against the, files and regions you have. Let's you have a look. The answer is using row limit and byte limit per file to sample data and use cloud storage regex to set the limit on it. That was the last questions for part 3. I shall see you in part 4. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.